Hi, Closet Sim Racer. Welcome to a new video. This is going to be a video I've been meaning to do for a while. So I'm going to run through how to get your VR set up and to hit your constant frame rate so you don't feel sick. So if you've just had VR or just got VR, trying it for the first time, or you're relatively new to it, this is the process you need to go through to get your frame rates to your target rate, i.e. that would be your headset megahertz rate. So for example, I use the Oculus CV1, which is here, or here even. That runs at 90 hertz. So my target is 90 FPS. If you want to run yours at 120 hertz, I know is it the Quest 3 and the Quest 2 do. I don't have that headset, so I can't show you that. Your target would either be 90 or 120. I think there are others that run 75 hertz. So basically, I'm going to go through the process of what you need to do or how to do and get your VR set up to a decent playable rate. So, what do you need? As you see from my screen, you need a way of logging A, what your system's up to, B, what your frame rate is. Now in iRacing, there is a little handy box that you'll see. It'll give you, I'll show you once we're in, but it'll give you a basic statistic. It's always worth having like a backup thing. I'll show you a couple that I use. So I use MSI Afterburner. I'll put the links down below. Only download from the official website. There are some dodgy versions going, so follow the links, download that. And also a fairly recent addition is Intel's PresentMon. I'll show you why I use this one, because it's got a pretty decent feature for VR actually. So that's what I'm currently using. So once you've done that and got everything, I'm not going to go through how to set those up. There are plenty of other videos to show you how to do that. There is, before I forget, there's a couple of things I'm going to run through. So I will briefly show you iRacing. You'll see from my videos I also run in Rfactor2. So I will have both of my settings for my system up on the screen, so feel free to pause, use it as a base if you want. For reference, I have a Ryzen 5 5600X and a NVIDIA 3080 10GB. That's what I run. So I do have another video on hardware. You can, I'll link it up one of these sides up there so you can look at that. So right, before you do anything, you need to set up your headset. So i.e. I have Oculus, so I have to have the Oculus software open. So here it is. Now my CV1 doesn't have as many settings as a Quest 2 or a Quest 3, but where you would find that would be, you've got devices, Rift, and I believe in there are some additional settings. Also worth checking in the settings tab, I don't think there's anything graphically in this settings tab. I think it's just other bits and bobs, privacy payments and betas and that kind of stuff. So in here, click into that. It should give you, there should be some options to find out what your megahertz rate is or what your target rate is. So that's where you'd find that. I don't want to store. There we go. Right, let's get rid of that. Next thing. I also run super sampling, which is the single best thing that you can do in VR that makes a instant visual impact in the headset. For me and the Oculus, I can't run without it. It's absolutely superb. So I am just going to fire open here we go. Bear with me. So my screen's quite far away. There it is. I've got a version saved. Right, let me just bring that over. Not that one. That one. So these, the config files you saw, the way I went through is in Documents, iRacing, and then I've scrolled down to my Oculus render file. Now there are many things you can change in here. I will link the iRacing VR guide down below, and also the Rfactor2 one on the forum down below. So I'm not going to go through the settings specifically, but one thing I am going to show you is if we scroll down, I run the Oculus, so it's under Oculus. If you run OpenVR, these settings will be here as well. Now, if we look here onto this line here, so this is pixels per display. This essentially is the super sampling rate which you can do directly in iRacing. So I don't run it through Steam VR, so I don't do it through that. I run it directly in iRacing. So this is very performance impacting. However, start, it should be on like a 100 as standard. Start it at say 120, which is like 1.2 for super sampling. I'd definitely up that from the initial. Again, hardware specific. So you will need a decent system, but if you're in VR, you should generally know that you need a decent system anyway. So yeah, sort that out. Get that to a base standard. You can change it, you can up it, you can down it as we go through the process. But I start by running it 120 as a minimum, maybe 1.3 if you can get away with it. But that's where you do it in there. So once we have that, also if you have a current version that you like and it works, generally in VR, if it works, I'll leave it alone. However, do save a copy like I just did. I'll quickly show you again. There with me, in there. So you can see down the bottom here, I have, that's the one that iRacing looks for. That's the file that it uses. That is exactly the same as that, but I've just renamed it with a 3080 on the end. So I've always got a backup. And I've got another saved in a file somewhere as well. So I always create a backup of it, just in case you break it, or updates, or stuff. Obviously with big updates coming for iRacing soon, this will completely change. And part of the reason why I'm doing this video, so people can know how to do it. So let's get on with it then. So the way to test your system, basically we're going to run our own version of a benchmark. So we basically do, I run it as a try to run it as a worst case scenario, over and over and over again, essentially. The way I do that in iRacing is a single AI race. I run as many other vehicles as I can. So GT3 is a pretty good race to use because you've got multiple cars and many different cars that you can have. I always run a standing start, and I try to run it in say dusk or into or out of darkness, kind of like a worst case scenario. And then anything outside of that, if it works here, it'll work anywhere. Also, bearing in mind that your system will have to do the calculations for the AI cars themselves. Obviously, when you're racing online, your system won't have to do that calculation, so you'll get a bit of headroom back, if you will. So like I say, we'll run it in a worst case scenario, and then if we can get it working here, it'll work across the board on many different races. In iRacing, the only outlier of that is Long Beach. Nobody can run Long Beach in a full race. It's just impossible. So I've already preset many cars, Watkins Glen, standing start. That'll do. And that's the car, and I'll select Oculus. You can set that to come on automatically and bypass that, but occasionally I want to do a replay and get a picture of something, so I always give myself the option. Okay, perfect. We are now inside the sim, so obviously I've loaded up a AI race, and we'll go from there. Let me try and do the screen so you guys can see it a bit better. This is a secret trick. Recenter that. And leave the headset really far away. Just about scrape it in. Bear with me. So we go options, graphic options. So they are my current settings. So impact wise, generally speaking, these are affecting your processor generally, and then these are mainly GPU settings. You have various, but generally speaking, these are the two. As you can see, I run a 3080, so if you've got the idea of upgrading to a 3080 or something higher, as you can see from what I run, you're not going to put everything on ultra and run it straight away. It just won't happen. For example, I believe I worked it out or saw online, the super sampling that I run at 1.5 puts out about 7 million pixels. So it's quite heavy on the old system. So if you think you're just going to turn everything to max and run it, you're not. You can try it, but I don't think it'll work. So let's say they are my current settings. Now, once you've done a race and say, right, I need to change, I'm using this a bit too much or that a bit too much. If you're changing anything like texture wise, or something like your anti-aliasing type, generally you'll need to come out of it and then back into it. The same applies for Rfactor2 as well. When you change something fairly substantial within your settings, you'll have to back out of it, reload it, and try it again. So that's that. You can see, I don't know if you can see that very good. Let me try and zoom the headset to it so you can see it a bit better. So you'll see up here in the top corner, you've got the R and G. Now, as you can see, if you hover over that, it gives you a bit of a description. my arm's really shaky. The R is your render, or how your CPU's being affected, and then the G is how your GPU's doing, so how your graphics card's doing. There is also the T underneath that, which is a frame time. Again, this is something that we'll look into in a second, but essentially the longer that bar, the slower your system's running. So if you can have it to roughly stay in line with your R and your G, which you want the bar to be as low as possible. If you do run the T as a number and not as a bar, because you get the option in iRacing, the timing, you want it under 11 milliseconds. Ideally, you want it around 7 or 8. But if it's under 11, generally you'll be getting your frame rate that you need. Right, so that's that. Let me just close that down a second. I will now show you. This is the present mon. I'll show you a little trick actually. I'm just going to bring up the. Oops. There we go. Right. So this is that software as you open it. As you can see, it's checking on iRacing. I've put GPU on there, and the only thing you need to do for VR is put it into windowed mode. So up here. Yep. And what that allows you to do is, and I'll show you how to do this. What that allows you to do, I need to move that over here, and I need to bring that up. Right, that will change in a second. Let me find one of my controllers. Okay, so what it allows you to do is we can pin this inside the headset so we can see it. So I can move it on the screen. So to do that with your controller is to press the front trigger and the side trigger, point it at it, press the two together, and it pops it out, as you can see here. And then we can move that to wherever we want it. So I'm going to put it somewhere around here, and then use the pin function at the bottom there to then pin that in the headset. Then we go back to iRacing, and there it is, all pinned in so we can see it. It's all reset, working, and as you can see. Okay, so I've had a quick reset, got it all working as you can see. So from top to bottom, we've got presented FPS. I'm currently at 90 FPS. That's our target. That's where I want to be. So we've got the, underneath that you've got your lows, the sort of red line. Obviously the higher that can be, the better. So my frame timing below is quite high, which is why my percentage is relatively low. It's not an exact science, it's just trying to get it as best you can. So frame timing is essentially how busy your CPU is. If I could get that down to sort of 7 or 8, that would be it'd be more ideal. And then you've got your GPU busy, so that is, if you imagine 11 as your 100%, so I've got 4/5 milliseconds, so I'm about around a third, or just over a third, and then that'll equate to GPU frequency, which is underneath, and then GPU utilization underneath that. So I'm running just shy of sort of 50% at the moment. I had a bit of a stutter then, see how it dived in the middle. So yeah, I'm using about 50% at the moment of my GPU. And then you've got things like voltage, temperature, and then right at the bottom there, you've got your GPU memory, which is your VRAM within your graphics card. So that's how I use that, and I'll do a quick race and I'll keep an eye on that, and just to see how the system's getting on. Alternatively, obviously you can use MSI Afterburner if you have any other form of monitoring systems and stuff like that that you can look at, either pin into the headset like this so you can see it while you're going, or review it after. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart this because I've missed the start by a country mile. Hold on. Bear with me. No. I will leave, not that. That's the one I want. Right, I will leave that up so you guys can see that. There we go. Right, so I'm gridded up. I need to put some headphones on just so I can hear. Spill your coffee. I'm not going to run this completely, but I'll do it so you can get a rough idea. I'm just hitting the. There we go. There we go. Right, well, I'm on the grid. So as you can see, like my frame times have gone up, but then at the start of the race, we're always quite busy. Oh, I put a clutch on it. Oh well, the race is not the important bit. So I've got some cars behind anyway, so we're all good. So we're just glancing over our frame rates, just let them through. It's good to have cars in front and behind you. So I'm just shy of 90 FPS. Got 71 utilisation. So it doesn't matter about the race. You don't even have to drive that well. You just, if you can stay in and around some cars, that always helps. There we go. Well, I've been done here. Not that I'm trying to get some cars around me. So 71. So I'm just shy of 90 FPS. So I'm looking at my system here. I mean, it's running smooth. It's absolutely fine. But I've got 11 milliseconds on my CPU and 11 milliseconds on my GPU. So I'm pretty much maxed out at the moment. I'm just shy of my FPS target, but it does appear smooth in the headset. So if it feels smooth, it's not jittery, it's not stuttering, then we're all good. I think it could be better, but from recent testing, which I've spent hours and hours and hours doing things like this, I actually think there's something up with the way iRacing currently is in VR. Now, obviously with the graphical updates that are due pretty soon, that may all change, so I'll be spending another hours and hours and hours trying all this again. But as you can see, I'm running smooth, I'm fine. I've not really got cars popping in. Oh, nearly crashed then. I've not really got cars popping in and out. I'm at a steady FPS. I can look down at what iRacing give us. So my R bar is about 3/4. My G bar is just shy of half. And how's my timing bar? See, my timing bar looks quite low, which doesn't add up to what I'm seeing in the Intel bar, which makes me think that the current frame time reporting in iRacing is broken. I'm not the only one to say this. There are many other people that have had some issues, but I'm running smoothly, it's nice and clear. It looks good. All the details on my dashboard and everything else is absolutely fine. So I will take that as a win. Obviously, if you're seeing something like 45 FPS or 50, 60 FPS and it's at that constantly, that's when you want to change something. So you're looking at dropping graphical, or you can tell from here if your frame time is high then you want to drop something that's GPU, CPU, or your processor. So maybe you could lower the amount of cars that you see. You could lower the anti-aliasing to a 4 times or 2 times rather than 8 times, for example. You can drop little things like that down. Things like foliage, I'm not really bothered how the trees look. I'm also not bothered how the sky looks either. That might change when we start getting rain, because I want to see where the rain's coming from, but for now I'm not bothered. As you can see, this is running pretty decent. I think this looks pretty decent in my headset as well. Let's see how my frames are getting on. See, I'm still at 90, I'm happy with that. Got some cars in my mirrors, got a couple of cars up ahead. I'm not stuttering, that's how we want it. That's perfect. So what I'll do in a minute, okay, 240 watts I'm pulling. So the race doesn't matter. It's just about a test. So I would say I'm sort of dusk at the moment, going into darkness. I think this is about as worst case as I can get it. I'm running as many GT3 cars, different types of cars as I can. And I'm having a lovely experience in here. So I'm going to hide out the way, I'm going to go in here. And I'm going to call that a win. So again, you can reference your little iRacing graph, R, G and T. And then look and cross-reference what you're seeing. But I'd say currently how I'm running is nice. I like that. Let's exit out of that. And then you've got your, remember it's graphic options, not replay. Replay's a different thing altogether. So for reference, these are my settings. It's always low. Cars. Generally in all games, I'll run cars in high detail. Pit optics is a personal thing, so some are bothered by it, some aren't. Same with grandstands. Where possible, I actually like to run my grandstands because it puts you where you are. Crowds and stuff, if you get the option. I'll turn the crowd off, I'm not bothered about the crowd. In an ideal world, I have objects on a bit higher than I've currently got it. The other thing that is a killer is shadows, and particularly headlights. Now in iRacing it's pretty simple, you've got headlights, low detail, happy days. In Rfactor2 you have to change something inside of a config file, and that'll be, you'll see that'll be linked in the I'll link that in the guide that I'll link to below. And it will tell you how to run that. So that's how you do that in iRacing. So let's come out of this. I can see myself in the thing, it's weird. So I'm going to go back to that one. Take all this off. So that is how you would do it in iRacing. Also, I'll show you, just get rid of this quickly. Get rid of that for a second. Right, so this is MSI Afterburner that I also had running, and as you can see here, this is the graph. You can select obviously what you want to see. I've got my CPU temperature for some reason. CPU usage. Here is my frame rate. So essentially, if you look, if you're reviewing this after, it's really difficult to see from here. My screen's too far away. Essentially, you want that as a flat line. With the occasional, you don't mind the occasional dip, but generally you want it as a completely flat line. Now, what I should have done when I come out of my headset, I should have gone straight into this, and then you can see at which point you, I would imagine I'd come out of the race about here, because then I sort of peak, and then my temperature starts to come down because it's not being used as much. So I would say around here. So I mean, I had a big sort of stuttery mess in there, but overall it's generally okay with the odd dip, and that for me, that is fine. It might not be for you, but for me, I can deal with that. That's not a problem at all. You'll always, certainly at race starts, you're always going to get a bit of a drop. Once you get through the first to second corners, usually it starts to settle down a bit, starts to flatten out, and is a lot better. So that's that. Now I will attempt to run PresentMon with Rfactor2, but I'm never hopeful. It doesn't seem to like it, but we'll try anyway. So I need my Steam open. Alright, I'm going to have to run through the Rfactor2 process of everything. So I'm going to move all these off screen, get rid of the stupid advertisement. So what do I need for Rfactor2? Oculus tray tool I have. I need that open. There it is. It's my little secret for running through. When I run a Steam VR game, I run Oculus tray tool because that's where I set my super sampling rate. So that is set in there. When I launch the game, it automatically enables it. Job done. So I just have that open on the screen. Now let's go into Rfactor2. I'm currently in the release candidate at the moment. Let me just open that and then open that. Right, let's see how
game
this
launch
works.
Detected.
Well, I'm currently getting a reading off PresentMon, although it is just looking at my Oculus mirror. Let's see if it will pick up Rfactor2. So I do like that PresentMon, but I say it's a bit hit and miss at the moment. But I find it really useful in VR. Basically, the system, the way that we do it, do a race, take a look at your system. Did you hit your target? Yes or no? No. What was it? Was it my GPU? Was it my CPU? Adjust the settings accordingly. Use the guides as an idea of what you need to lower for what particular instance. So if you are using PresentMon, obviously it showed you the frame timings for GPU, CPU, so you can gain from that which one to adjust. If you're using MSI Afterburner, then just track a few more things than I was, like GPU usage, CPU usage. You can check your RAM as well, and your VRAM and stuff like that, power limits, all that kind of stuff, and then decipher from there. That's why I find it easier in PresentMon, because it kind of just tells you this is your frame time, this is your frame time, this is your frame time, and you can adjust accordingly. That's it. So if your GPU busy time is like 1.2, then your GPU is not very busy, but your CPU is really busy. If that all makes sense. Hopefully. Right, so now we need to do the same thing, but with Rfactor. Now, let me just open up my settings. So these are my Rfactor2 settings. Again, thing with Rfactor2, very CPU heavy. So visible vehicles, I only run 10. I don't run that many. Now I've got a lot of circuit detail, player detail, opponent detail, texture detail, all on high. I'd probably lower the texture to gain a bit back. However, I've been racing online in the new race control system, and these settings have been absolutely fine. I've not had any issues whatsoever with full grids and it's absolutely fine for me. So they're the settings I currently use. Right, now we'll present mod, pick up Rfactor2. My money's on probably not. No, it really doesn't like Rfactor2, and I don't know why. Let's set it to auto to see if it picks it up then. No, unfortunately, PresentMon does not like Rfactor2. I don't know why. That's really frustrating. Because I'd like to use it. I did actually have it working once. We'll change that to Oculus. I wonder what it will do. I don't like it on Oculus either. No, doesn't like it here. But so Rfactor2 is a little more difficult than iRacing to get right. You don't get the frame time and all that kind of stuff. There is some shortcuts that you can use. I don't know how effective that is, as I can't say I've ever used it like built-in stuff. So, but what I will show you is another way of keeping an eye on your frame times whilst driving. Obviously with Rfactor2 I run it through Steam, so therefore I run it through Steam VR. If you run, is it the OpenXR, there's also something similar built into this. There's a couple of things that you can use. Let me see if I can. Right, so there's a couple of things that we can do. Let me show you this in the headset. Let me just move myself. And I'll show you. Bear with me. Right, hopefully I've got something. Yeah, there we go. Right, I've got my headset up. So, I need my controller again. There we go again into desktop on my second screen. So, we have MSI Geforce on the go. Now in here, Steam VR, there is advanced frame timing. So this is another way of tracking frame timing. I mean, it's not the clearest thing, as you can see. So, I mean, again, there's CPU, there's GPU, these are your frame times. So that is 12 milliseconds. So we're about on target for 11. I mean, as you can see at the moment, though, it's really, you know, it's not doing anything per se. It's tiny. But there is another one, which I haven't used for a very long time. And you know this setting window is just opened up behind Rfactor2, so you can't get it. Oh, there we go. Display performance graph. If I go back to Rfactor. No, not playing ball. Let me see if it's hidden somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Hold on. Hey. Oh, put that back on. Back into it. As you can see, if you think you're going to get this done in like 10 minutes, it just ain't going to happen. So I just run, there you go, sort of 90 hertz refresh rate, and I am running at 100%, and I just leave it 100% in this, and that's it. So here we go. Show GPU graph in headset. That's what we want. Turn that on. Now, if you look really down, I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. You've got 1 point or 0.6 of 11.1. So 11.1 is essentially 90 megahertz or 90 FPS. So I'm well under that at the moment, so that's good. Right, now we can go back into Rfactor. Close that down. I don't know if you can see that. That weird bar at the bottom. It's kind of annoying. Right, so we've got that one. That's option 1. Option 2, for me anyway, when I can dig it out. Oh, you got to love computers. Like I say, this is not straightforward. Now, where's that gone? Right, again. Stuff going in behind Rfactor2. Right. Let's get the controller again. So it's just finding the best way for yourself to track your frame rate. Now we can get rid of, let me see where settings, there we go. Right, so let's turn the Steam one off. And in Oculus Tray Tool, there is, he says, that's general default. There is a you can have advanced power plans and stuff. Don't want that. Don't want that. Is it in here? Not Quest Link. I don't need that. Ah, there we go. Right, Visual HUD. Got you. Performance. There we go. Okay, does that come through? Yeah, there we go. You can see that in the center of the screen. So you've got performance headroom, so how much more you've got left to go. Obviously green is good, red is bad. And then you've got frames that are dropped and applications frames dropped. So essentially you just want to keep it, we look at the left hand side, got a flat line at 90, that's what we want. And then on the right hand side is a frame time. Oh, that's the headroom performance, sorry. Actually, that's a bit of a flickering mess. But that's that. So let's bring back up Rfactor2 and give Rfactor2 a go. There we go, back in there. See my frame rate, solid 90. Happy days. Now we need to set up little AI race, which I have not done in this. Edit session, practice off, race on. Always black flag only, always. Let's give ourselves lots and lots of cars. I only have 10, so running 20 is drawing cars we can't see, which is absolutely fine. Bahrain, just because I was doing that the other day. Then we want, let's run it as late, then go about 8:30. 3 laps is fine, not raining. Go. So we'll keep this little graph up thing in front of me. It's not the greatest thing to drive with. However, it's a good way of keeping an eye on your system while we're doing. And then once we've done this, dive out into MSI Afterburner and see what that's logged. I'll wait for this to load up. Effectively, this is just rinse, repeat until you can find the balance in your system using the guides. What do I need to adjust? What don't I need to adjust? As long as you're hitting your megahertz in your headset, then you'll get a smooth, good experience. Now for me, now Rfactor2, now I've got it all working, as you'll see what I see, I actually think it's better than iRacing, dare I say it. Although iRacing is good in other ways, visually, for me, I find Rfactor just better at the moment. So I'm suffering here. Oh, dumped the clutch, got it wrong. As you can see, I'm in the dark. Oh, we're suffering here. What happened there? Right. My steering wheel wants to kill me. Okay, so you join me on the grid again. Still can't start a car for love nor money. So as you see, we're a little bit suffering. Oh, come on, round we go. Right, there we go. Bit of a technical error with my steering wheel. Let's see, I am, as you can see, suffering pretty badly here. I think I've got too much detail on, and I'm suffering because of it. Let's throw it up the inside. Let's see, in and around cars. See, the detail's not fantastic. And it's not really stuttering, but it's quite ghosty when I get close to other cars. So I think what I'll do is I will dive out, I'll make some minor adjustments, and then we'll try this again. Because I haven't quite got that right. I mean, in daylight, it's fine. However, if I was to actually run a race at night, as you can see, clearly, I'm suffering. So if I brake, if I let those cars get down the road a bit, right, there you go, I'm at 90. Away from cars, I'm fine. And we look very good. Dropped a bit there. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. A lot of buildings, a lot of lighting. I mean, we're doing okay. We're at 80 odd %. Or 80 FPS. Right. I'm going to dive into the settings, I'm going to change some stuff, and then I'm going to come back and try this again. Let's exit this. Exit this. This is how we do it. So let me pop that on there. Let me change it so you guys can see. There we go. Right, so I'm going to go into my settings. Now the only real way of knowing, let me bring this over so you guys can see it as well. So this is what MSI Afterburner picked up. So if I have a look here, so that's my temperature. That's my usage from a GPU. I mean, it's up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not. I mean, as you can see, look at the temperatures. Was like up, 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 up. I was up to sort of 83 degrees at one point, which is, so as you can see, frame timing is all over the place. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. It's not a steady line. So CPU usage. Now, probably ideally, I could do with the individual cores. Because I've got a multi-core, but I don't think Rfactor utilizes all of the cores, so it's difficult to know really. I think I'm probably GPU bound, just due to the graphical situation that I was in. So I think if I lower that to low, opponent detail medium, leave mine at high, circuit detail at high. And I think if I retest that, so if I go out of there, back to that, we'll redo what we've just done, and we'll see if we get an improvement. Let's go back to the mirror, and let's see if this is any better. Hopefully, with my VR hair. As you can see, this is, especially if you're starting out for the first time, trying to dial this in, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's rinse and repeat. It's doing what I've just done, going out, changing the setting, going back in, testing that. A couple of laps, 2 or 3 laps is fine. If you can stay in and around cars, it gives you an idea of what the system's going to do, until you find that little sweet spot for you. But setting out your super sampling rate first is always a good technique, and then adjusting the settings from there. Also, if you're happy with your settings and how it looks in the system, what you can always do is then go back out. You can lower or drop down your super sampling one. So say I run 1.3, drop that down to 1.2, leave the settings as they are, see how that looks, try that. You can just fine tune it ever so slightly. So let's get back into the headset. Yep, you can see that. Let's try again. Then I'll find my mouse. There's my mouse. Right, so how are we looking? Well, we've gained a little bit. Can he start a car this time? I'm so bad at starting cars. Oh, we've gained a little bit, you know. See, we're up to 70, which is more than we had last time. Well, it dropped down to 45 then. See, we're recovering our frame rate a little bit quicker. It's a little bit ghosty. I saw a little bit of ghosting then. I see frames have dropped accordingly. A bit of drifting. Wow. In your face, Rfactor2. So I've got a bit of cars popping in and out there because I can't. If you've got something like a 3DX CPU, you should be able to run a few more cars than me. My CPU really holds me back on this game. Must admit, I haven't quite enjoyed myself, even though I'm just running this as a test. It's quite good fun. Still in and around cars. What I might do you could probably put circuit detail on medium, but then, you know, you miss out on all this pretty goodness. That's probably... I mean, look how pretty is that? I mean, for me, I can... Love driving a GT car, they're great fun. I could probably cope with this. My wheel having another hissy fit again. Ever since I updated the firmware on this wheel, I've had issues. It's not I don't think it's Rfactor's fault. I think this is a Fanatec thing. There we go. Drop through there. I really dropped down. I think it's circuit detail. I think if I was to lower circuit detail, I'd probably get a slightly better experience. As you can see, my performance headroom is red, red, red. So, I mean, really that needs to be green or amber. So, I kind of need to be lowering some settings. But you get the idea. Now, I'm going to pull over to one side here. I'm going to dive out of this. I'm going to reload the same session, but I'm going to reload it in daytime. So if I quickly go to session, edit. No. If I put this to say midday. Let's reload the session at midday just to see the difference between day and night running and to see the effect that has. Get great FPS in the menu when it's loading. Brilliant. Loads of headroom. I mean, ideally, not 88% headroom, but you know, if you can have a graph that looks relatively close to that, you will get a really good experience. As I say, trial and error. You've got to like try it, out of it, change it, back into it. You need a good couple of hours, probably an afternoon. There is no right or wrong answer. There are so many variables. It's not easy for me to say definitely do this or definitely don't do that. Right, let's see what we look like now. See, like daytime. Loads better. And I still can't start a car. I mean, FPS, I'm nearly 90. I mean, the cars look better. Oh, I'm getting mullered here. Let's take to the outside. Look at that. See my FPS? See, that's the difference between day and night running. Oh, nearly crashed. I mean, it does feel a bit smoother. I can't see the ghosting that I was seeing during the night running. So as you can see, the settings that I did have are absolutely fine for daytime running, but for nighttime running, maybe a bit more adjustment. So if you can get it, fully working in a nighttime scenario, then when you do come to the middle of the day, run exactly the same thing. It's not going to be a problem at all. Just a bit of late braking. What? Love a GTE car. This is Bahrain, by the way, if you hadn't noticed. And I had another wheel lock up then. I don't know what's going on. There we go, down the pit straight this time. I'm nearly at a solid 90 FPS, whereas in the dark I was, what, down to 50, 60? We've got someone trying to overtake us here. In your face. So I really hope that what I've showed today will sort of point you in the right direction as regards to how you go about doing your settings. I say, if and when Presentmon gets fully worked and updated and picks up the games that you're playing or sims that you're playing, it'll be a lot better, because it quite clearly shows you what's under what load, and I like that, and that's what you need to know for VR specifically. Probably all games to a degree, but certainly with VR. So I'm having too much fun here. I'm actually quite enjoying this. I mean, my headroom's like, I'm basically using everything that my system's got. Obviously I'm recording as well, so that's going to add some to it. But yeah, I think things like, which what I need to do myself, to be fair, is mirrors, because mirrors in VR in Rfactor2 are, well, pointless. So I actually need to disable those, and I'll probably gain a couple of FPS back. So that'll help. I think I'll probably might lower track detail down. That might help my overall experience. But, I mean, what I'm racing now, I could drive this for hours and not feel ill in the slightest. Downshift protection beep. So, yeah, right, I'm going to call it here. I'm having far too much fun. It's not the point of the video. There we go. And what I might do, while I remember, is I might lower my circuit detail down to medium. See, I can set, as you can see here, I can set like a preset. So I could set a daytime preset and a nighttime preset, and then when I know I'm racing between the two, is flick between them. The only issue you've got is if you're doing something like a day into night or a night into day race, you're going to have to probably go for the lower end. You're probably always going to have to choose the night one. But yeah, so I'm gonna leave that as is. Yeah. I'm just gonna call that standard and hit save. There we go. So yeah, so you get the idea. So it's a case of AI race, worst case scenario, checking your details, checking your settings, see what's being used more. In fact, let me quickly dive over here. See, like my GPU usage is it's pretty high. So I've lowered some GPU settings. So hopefully that'll balance back out a little bit. As you can see, this is my frame, my FPS. It's relative. It's not flat, but it's nearly flat. So I think I'll probably now sort of run it a bit. It'll run a bit smoother. Obviously, when racing online, is your computer's not having to run the physics calculations for the other cars that you're racing. So you do get a bit back with that. So yes, it's very trial and error. It's not a quick job. It does take quite a while. It can be frustrating, but if you stick with it, change one thing at once, see what makes the difference, trial and error, like I said, eventually you'll get it sorted, and you'll have a fantastic experience. But when you get these headsets and you plug them in for the first time and you go straight into a race, it's going to be very rare that your settings will be bang on and you'll get a great experience straight away. It does take a bit of messing about, certainly. But yeah, I've been Closet Sim Racer. I hope this video helps someone. Let me know in the comments if you need any help, any advice, just ask. I'm here to help other people. I feel the pain. I've learned all of this with no real reference online of how to do any of this stuff. So let me know if there's any problems. I can help you. I will help you if I can help you, or point you to either one of my videos or to somebody else that will be able to help. So I've been Closet Sim Racer. Thanks for watching. See you, bye.